Hi, I'm Melanie Walker, and this is How to Live a Life. We're delving into the world of podcasting today at Solid Gold Pods.
Hi, I'm Gavin Kennedy. Let's show you around.
Gavin, what made you decide to get into creating a podcast studio? What was your background?
Well, I've been in radio and television for about 30 years now. And it was about 5-6 years ago, after dropping my kids off at school one day, I noticed that I hadn't listened to the radio in my car for several months. I'd only been listening to podcasts, and that was just really interesting for me. And at that time, when you went to a bar and asked people about podcasts, they didn't know what they were. Where now you go to a bar and you say podcast, and they go, oh, have you heard my podcast? So it's certainly been a change in the last 5-6 years.
And how has it changed worldwide? I mean, in how long have podcasts been going, and how's it worked? Has it gone up exponentially?
Podcasts first came out about 15, 16, 17 years ago. They were originally called audio blogs. And then Steve Jobs included them in iTunes. And that was where they first started up, but they weren't very popular or well listened to yet. There were about 4,000 podcasts initially. It was when the iPhone came out and podcasts were integrated into the device with data that they suddenly exploded. And over the last few years, podcasts have been the fastest growing medium around the world. South Africa's tracking a little bit behind America and Europe, Australia as well. But all signs are that we're catching up at a rate equivalent to their growth in podcast listenership.
So how many podcasts would you say there are about, not just here in South Africa, but worldwide?
It's quite hard to track because it's a decentralized thing. That's one of the attractions of podcasts. It's not where you log into one place to get them. You can get them anywhere. Last estimates were over 4 million podcasts, which is quite a growth from 4,000 15, 16 years ago. And current indications are that it's growing at about 50,000 podcasts a day, 50,000 new podcast channels, not episodes.
A day?
A day.
Okay, so here in South Africa, what kind of people are making podcasts?
Podcasts are very universally democratic at a way of sharing information. You don't have to be part of a big network to get your show up there or your program listed. So we're finding hobbyists, people who have got unusual hobbies or interests making podcasts. We're also finding podcasts as part of a communication strategy for NGOs, government, big business. And in the middle, SMEs and large corporates are using podcasts as a way of sharing frequently asked information and having deep dive conversations around topics relating to their products and services. So it's really everybody from one-man bands sitting in their proverbial garage making a podcast to multinational organizations using podcasts, all as a way of communicating.
Okay, so now people come in here to Solid Gold. They say, I want to make a podcast. So you make the podcast, you record them, but there's more to it than just sitting down and actually recording it. How do you get it out? Do you help people put it out on social media or teach them how to do that kind of thing?
Yeah, just because you can make a podcast doesn't mean you should. That's like saying just because you've got, Photoshop, you should design pictures. It doesn't necessarily follow. Our offering is for hobbyists all the way up to the large corporate. So for the hobbyist, we make space available where they can come in and record their podcast in a space that isn't hindered by hardy-dars and leaf blowers disturbing their recordings at home. And they're welcome to take that recording home and edit their own podcast. On the other extreme, we do series for large companies. So they'll say we need a 10-part series covering these topics, and we will research them, script them, record them, edit them, host them, publish them, the whole end-to-end. And in the middle is a hybrid version of that, where we will the client will know what they want to do, and they just need help with recording and editing. And more we're seeing that podcasts are being made on location more and more. As much as we have 11 studios, more and more work is happening on location in a CEO's office, for example.
Okay. Well, what is the most important thing, or what are the most important things that you would say to people when it comes to actually making a podcast?
Yeah, there are two, really. The most important thing is you have to know why you're making a podcast. can't just come in and say, I want to make a podcast. What's it about? Oh, it's about goldfish. Why are you making it? There has to be a very, very clear why. Otherwise, after 2, 3, 4 episodes, it'll be directionless, going all over the place, and you'll be demotivated and say this podcasting thing sucks. So having a very, very clear why you're making the podcast, and ideally that why should have a measurable outcome in the real world. So I'm doing this because I want this to happen in the world. Not just likes and shares, but I want to see this change happen in the world. And the second really important thing is to remember that for podcast, it doesn't matter how many people you reach, but that you reach the people who matter.
Well, it looks like South Africa is going to go from strength to strength in the podcasting industry. And if you want to be heard, well, these are the guys to get hold of. And if you know of anybody who's doing something fresh and interesting, let us know at this address. We'll catch you next time.